Today is a wonderful day, and I'm in a great mood. It's a good time to talk about children's psychosomatics. This is a very important topic. Last week, I saw that there were requests for this subject. People want to understand, want to figure out why our children get sick, and what we, as parents, can already do today. Here's how our meeting will go. I will talk about the important periods that essentially shape a child's condition. In fact, their psyche as well, but mainly their overall state, from which illnesses can later develop. Next, I will explain why children get sick, what nuances and factors there are, what these things indicate, and what we need to reflect on. Then we will do a kind of diagnostic exercise together where you will observe and sense your children within your own field. I will answer your questions and we will finish with a practical exercise, not just to chat, but so that something actually changes. How do you like the plan? Give it a thumbs up. Hooray, hooray, Vadym, awesome, you came up with something great. So, let's start from the very beginning. Which periods are actually very important for us? Actually, let's go right from the very start. That's always how I explain things. As if you already know about psychosomatics, you know everything, you understand everything, but of course that's not the case. It's a kind of professional habit when it seems to you that people already know the things you have in your head. We are parents here. Some of you already have children. Wave if you do. Put a plus sign in the chat if you have kids. Some of you will have children in the future. Maybe you're pregnant or just thinking about having kids. Put a plus sign for that too. And of course, for every parent, their child is very important. We want them to be healthy. We want them to live a long and happy life, and ideally, an even better life than ours. Isn't that right? We truly want our child not to get sick, to be happy, to have good health, sufficient money, great success, and so on and so forth. Isn't that what we all desire? And when a child suddenly gets sick or has frequent colds, we inevitably start thinking, oh my goodness, did they catch something at daycare or at school? Who really knows where it came from? Who here has experienced this frustrating situation? You get quite upset because deep down it feels like you can't truly influence it. So what exactly should you do? Or when a more serious illness is diagnosed, some kind of inflammatory process or a predisposition to something, well, that can throw any parent off balance. Of course, you can't always handle things even when it comes to yourself, but when it concerns your child, it throws you into an even deeper state of fear, anxiety, and worry, and it feels like the ground is slipping out from under your feet. That is precisely why, in essence, a child's illness can be a kind of conflict that triggers a certain biological program, and the adult begins to get sick. And this makes things even worse for the adult and less safe for the child, and then the child starts to get sick as well. That's why today I want us to move out of this state of anxiety so that today we can begin to open the curtain, the mystery of children's illnesses, and at least start looking in that direction. Of course, I don't flatter myself with the thought that today you'll just take my word for it, your life will change, and you'll never panic or worry about your children again, and you'll always know what to do. Of course not. But at least open this curtain, this thing, and start to relate differently to the child, to yourself, and to everything that happens in life in general. Because very often I consistently notice a recurring mechanism. I observe this predictable cycle. A symptom, followed by a trigger, then fear, and subsequently the symptom reappears. Yes, that is precisely it. The child develops something, perhaps a persistent runny nose, or I don't know, a common cold, a painful sore throat, or even a bothersome stomachache. I don't know, it could be something else entirely. Consequently, the mother's profound fear significantly rises, a deep-seated worry that something truly bad might happen to her child. Or am I such a bad mother I didn't watch closely enough, I didn't notice what they would think of me now? Instead of focusing on the actions I can take right now, giving the child a sense of safety, calming myself down and recovering, she starts winding herself up. The anxiety inside rises even more, like a hurricane. The child then is in the mother's field and the symptoms take root, it becomes chronic, and unfortunately, nothing moves forward. I've seen this a lot in my practice when I worked in a clinic, and I still see it now when mothers come in. But the solution is much simpler, yes, so you need to restore calm, restore a sense of safety, restore confidence. And most importantly, what gives us a sense of safety is knowledge. So, let's start with the first thing. What influences a child's condition, their development, their personality, and their future conflicts? That is, if we're talking about psychosomatics, specifically where and at what stage are conflicts formed. Stage number 1. The so-called, as Christian Flesh calls it, project sense. This is precisely when conception hasn't even happened yet, but a man and a woman meet and they deeply feel the need for a child for some profound reason, a certain significant meaning or a specific purpose. Every single person inherently wants to somehow continue something truly meaningful through their beloved child. Maybe to work through some of their own fears, maybe to fulfill some unrealized dreams. For example, I couldn't become an athlete, so you will be an athlete. I don't want to, you want to, mom knows best, and so on in that vein. Or the child is like glue. I'll have a baby for you, and then you won't be able to run around with other women anymore. You won't be looking for those women in bars anymore. Or to induce guilt. You have a daughter or a son, where are you going? So maybe there's some kind of strategy like that. In other words, the first episode that's very important for us is, why do I even need a child? And today, in practice, we'll basically encounter this. I'll explain all of this, and we work through this topic in the basics of Psychosomatics module. The next stage is, how did you find out about your pregnancy? How did you find out you were pregnant? How did it all happen? By the way, please share your experiences as well. So was your pregnancy, oh my God, I'm so happy I have a child, everything is wonderful for me. This is the best period of my life. I feel supported by my husband, by my family. I've wanted this for a long time. Or was it filled with fears, a lot of them? It took a long time to get pregnant. Now, what if something happens again? What if it doesn't work out again? This fear is eating me up inside. Or a man who doesn't want this child at all, and you feel unwanted, lonely, like something inside you just collapses. By the way, we have problems with the Telegram channel. I don't know how to fix it. We'll try to figure it out somehow. In the meantime, please write if anyone is able to listen to me through the Telegram channel, or is it just completely freezing for everyone? Please give some feedback. So about relatives, has it ever happened that my relatives supported me like, it's so good that you're pregnant now, we'll help you, we'll guide you? Or on the contrary, did they mess with your head, didn't accept you, judged you? Please write right now what resonates with you, what you experienced. Were there any dramas with your husband during pregnancy, like, should I leave or not? Will I stay or not? Those kinds of moments. When you found out you were pregnant, were there any scary stories from the medical side? Doctors saying, everything's wrong, you have to terminate the pregnancy, or something terrible will happen to the baby, or that you have some predisposition or genetic issue. These kinds of scary stories that keep you tense inside throughout the whole pregnancy. Thank you very much, doctor. These things are truly very important and significant. This is what essentially lays down the foundation for our programs, our internal wiring, how we will behave and act in life later on, how we will ultimately feel about ourselves as individuals. And this, in fact, can actually create stress in our lives seemingly out of nowhere, sometimes when we least expect it. That's why this is the second stage, which is extremely important. Write this down for yourselves right now. Accordingly, the entire pregnancy period, all the months, the birth itself, how it went, whether it was fast or not, whether there was medical intervention or not, whether the baby was pushed out or not, whether the child went through autonomy or not, or if it was a C-section, this is also a very important period. Next, the following stage is also very important. In the first year of life, basic security is formed. It's during that first year of life that we develop our sense of safety. If a child doesn't get enough of this in the first year, there's a high chance that they will live their whole life with anxiety. Yes, and as the classics say, all our programs are essentially written by the age of 5, and then we just replay them throughout our lives. That's why the first year of life is so important. But how is it important? Was there sufficient care and genuine attention shown to the young child? Did the mother truly feel safe and secure in that environment? This is a very important point. Did she feel wanted, accepted, that she could rely on someone? These key moments are very important because if the mother didn't feel safe, then the child won't feel safe either. And very often, when a mother wants to heal her child. When you start explaining that you first need to start with yourself, many mothers don't understand this and begin to focus only on the child, using a bunch of medications and treatments, while they themselves remain in a state of stress. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You need to work on yourself in parallel as well. You need to bring yourself into a normal state. Or, when they start reading some books and begin to blame themselves, it's my fault that my child is sick. If there are any mothers like this here, raise your hand, right eye. Listen to me carefully. You can never be to blame for your child's illness. When you start thinking this way, you trigger certain patterns that begin to harm your child. That's why you need to say, I'm fine, I'm a normal mom. I am a good mom to my child. I did the best I could during pregnancy and through all the stages. Yes, I am a living person. I might have some illnesses, some emotions, some feelings, but that has nothing to do with my child being sick. In other words, my child's illness does not, on the contrary, highlight that I have some unresolved feelings, unresolved emotions, or perhaps certain beliefs or convictions. And that's why I need to work through them. So on the contrary, it's information for action, not for self-blame. But when a girl, a woman, a mom, falls into this state of guilt, that feeling of guilt starts to drown her. She literally suffocates in it and the child starts to feel very bad. Is that clear? There are many more stages. Yes, I talk about all of them in child psychosomatics, but right now, these are the main ones you need to understand. This is your state before conception. The period when you found out you were pregnant, how the birth went, and the first year of life. These are the key things we need in order to heal our child. Absolutely. Now, is everything clear so far regarding these stages? Type A+ if yes, a minus if things are still unclear. Yes, here Inochka is writing. I remember how I was blamed by my parents for my child being sick. Yes, and why is that? Because they think a child is, I don't know, some kind of box of chocolates. A child is a living being. They have their own feelings, their own emotions. Maybe your child was getting sick precisely because you lacked support and attention from your parents. And instead of stopping to give you support, to back you up, to help, to give you more love, they start criticizing you even more. And because of this, you fall into guilt and suffer. You are the child. But what you really need to do is stop and realize that they scold you, not because there's something wrong with you, but because inside, they don't know what to do. They feel powerless. Just imagine putting yourself in the adult's place. So, you're an adult, you have a child, and your child has a child, and you see that everyone is suffering. What do? If you're feeling good inside, you say, how can I help you, my dear daughter? With money, I don't know, with time, with help, with anything to support. But what do you do if you're not feeling good inside? You start criticizing the mother. I told you shouldn't have gotten married. Why did you do that? You're a terrible mother. You're worthless. Why? Because I blame myself inside, because I'm dissatisfied with myself inside, and that's why I say such nasty things. So, at this stage, we realize the following. We need to understand that a child up to about 5 or 6 years old is in very close contact with their mother. Basically, with a child up to 5 or 6 years old, we can simply work with the mother, with her state, and the child will get better. Later, the child starts to have their own experiences and needs help coping with emotions. So, the most important thing a parent brings, first of all, is a state of love and acceptance. Our task is to teach the child, to give them the conditions and foundation so that they know you are important, your emotions matter, you are loved, you are accepted, and you are needed. This is very important. If the parent themselves doesn't have this, it won't work. If you scold yourself, if you blame yourself, if you eat yourself up inside, and then you tell your child you love them, it's just a drop in the ocean. The child sees how every day you get angry, you yell, and inside you there's a hurricane of emotions and feelings. So for them, the concepts get mixed up. You smile, say everything is fine, but inside there's pain, you're hurt, you have unprocessed feelings and states. Of course, this doesn't work. Actually, I wanted to start with this story. I myself would never have believed in psychosomatics, especially in children, if it weren't for my clients who came to me in the beginning, a long time ago. And here's the story of the first girl. A young woman, she has a child, she adores her child, she loves her child, but it so happened that the child does not speak. In other words, there is a delay in speech development. The child won't let go of the mother. Who else has experienced this, where the child won't let go of the mother? And when they come to see me, I can't even get to the child. At that time, I was working as an osteopath, but I had already started getting into psychosomatics. I can't even examine the child because they're just like this with the mother. Like a single hole. I say, okay, grandma, take the child and go play with the toys over there. I take the mother. The mother is swollen. There are these kinds of swellings, inflammations. Maybe she's even a little overweight. Well, it's not like she has a lot of extra weight or anything. It's more swelling, more water retention. I literally take her. And I don't even really do any particular exercise. Right away, resentment flares up. Resentment toward a man, resentment toward her husband. So, she got pregnant. And he behaved in a really nasty way, left, and they still don't communicate. Even though he wants to see the child once a week or something, inside her there's hatred toward this man. And at the same time, a deep, strong resentment. I wasn't loved, I wasn't heard, I wasn't understood. I didn't get what I deserved in the relationship. This feeling is there. We touch on this topic just a little, and immediately she brings out all these feelings, cries, lets it out. It might take about 40 minutes for her to release it all, and then she feels lighter. It gets easier. We form a new belief that she's still young, amazing, playful, and every man just dreams of a woman like her. So in this state, she leaves. What happens next? That day, they say they went to the mall to play. Well, not to play, but to shop, right? And they lost the child. And that's good news. Why? They were so used to the child never leaving his mother's side, so attached to her, that when they came to the mall, and they're like, where's the child? And they go to security and they see the security guard standing with the child. The child had relaxed, moved away from his mother, went off to play. In other words, he felt more comfortable because his mother felt safe. And after some time, well, he didn't tell us, but with the speech therapist or whoever works with the child on speech, they started to see progress. The child began to say his first words. It just started happening because the child felt safe. That's how important it is. That's how much it matters. If you like the story, give it a thumbs up. That's when I realized that this really works. And after that, there were many, many other issues we worked through. For example, there was a case of allergies, a child's allergy that couldn't be cured. No one could figure out what was happening with the child. And a mother came to me. Her child was about 5, 6, or 7 in that kind of age range. And when we started to look into what was going on, we found an interesting story. The mother was currently not on maternity leave anymore. Nothing like that. The child was healthy. It was long past maternity leave. Basically, she was stuck in some kind of creative rut, not working. She has a husband. She has 2 children, but only one of them has allergies. And so she's in this kind of state where she wants to work, but it's as if she doesn't allow herself to. But she feels like it's her husband who doesn't allow her, and they can't talk about it. So inside, she has a lot of anger at herself for not being able to live the life she wants. And essentially, her anger manifests through the child's rashes and shortness of breath. She wants to leave, but leave in the sense of to work, to do something useful, to develop herself somehow, but she can't allow herself to do that because of certain beliefs. And when we start to unpack this topic, all I ask is for her to imagine herself going to work, earning money, and having time for herself, not for the family, not for the child, not for the man, but for herself. By the way, moms, this is a very important point. To find time for yourself, to take care of yourself, no matter how old your child is. And when she does this, it becomes easier. Her body relaxes. We change these beliefs. And just a couple of simple exercises are enough, and the child's allergy goes away. That is, he stops having trouble breathing. He stops doing those things. And the second story is also about allergies. I hope I haven't bored you with these stories. It's just that the stories aren't all that illustrative. There's a woman, she seems to be into psychosomatics, she seems to believe in it. Her child has an allergy, he actually starts having trouble breathing. He actually gets to the point of anaphylactic shock, he's on medication, it's all very serious, it's no joke because it really could end fatally. She turned to psychosomatics because the medications weren't helping anymore. She seems to go, tries to listen to something, does something, but there's no result. When she comes to me, I say, you know, if you're not seeing any progress, it looks like you don't really believe this can be cured. She says, I do believe, Vadym, I believe what you're telling me. I've read a ton of books too, Psychosomatics, really, it really works. I say, well, wait, if you believe, then why isn't it working? So in our first session together, I tell her just this simple affirmation. My son can be completely healthy. Allergies can be cured. And her body is tense. We work through this affirmation and her body starts to relax. She goes home and she tells me a story. I come home and as usual in the evening, my child starts to have this reaction. You know, he's struggling to breathe. I have pills, I have medication. She remembers my words and starts to calm herself down. I have the pills, it's okay, my child is healthy, he can be healthy, everything's fine. And she says, okay, the symptoms are here now, but they'll pass, just calm down. She opens the window for some fresh air, does this and that, and after half an hour, all the symptoms are gone. She didn't even need to give him the pills. It would seem, if it's an allergy, what difference does it make what you say? What the heck does it matter what you believe? Objectively, if he was struggling to breathe, he should keep struggling. She leaves, everything's fine, but after a while, the situation comes back. A couple of days later, it all returns, and now it doesn't work anymore. She comes to me and says, Vadym, what the heck is going on? Why isn't it working? I kind of believe already. I say, well, first of all, you don't fully believe. It's logical, isn't it? Second, well, allergies don't form because you decide to believe or not believe. Allergies form because you have an internal conflict. We go through her story and she has a conflict with her husband. She loves her husband, everything seems fine on the surface, but inside she's lacking feelings. Her husband is very closed off, always busy with his own things. And so her husband is a trigger for her because she had a cold mother. And even though I think they've been married for 9 years already, there are still moments when she feels unwanted. So this fear of loneliness comes up for her. I'm not needed, that's just how I am. And essentially her child picks up on this state. And when she starts taking care of him, she gets on this wave of being a superheroine who saves her child. In other words, I need to cure my child and then I'll deal with my relationships. Do you catch the idea I'm trying to convey? Am I not making it too complicated? And everything we do with her, I teach her, for example, that she needs to express her feelings to her husband. And we work through issues with her mother, like, here, this is your mom. Tell your mom what you felt you were missing. It becomes easier for her. She understands what she needs to do, and she goes back to her normal life, dissolving into her own routines. A year later, they all came to see me together as a family. The child came, the husband came, she came, and they brought me a cake. And she told me, she said, Vadym, it's so great. My husband and I started working on our relationship. I began to express my feelings. We went to a family psychologist together. It was our joint decision, yes. And we started traveling. She said before, we couldn't go anywhere because our child was always having trouble breathing. And that's no joke. You know, you could die from that. She said we were closed off. We couldn't leave Moscow at all. But now, she said, we went on a trip. We spent a whole month traveling around Italy. And for us, that's a completely different level of life. It's great that we started doing this. That's the story. So, you might wonder, what's the catch? When you see an illness, when you see some kind of symptom, you start to believe that something is broken in you, or as if something is broken in your child. You start to instill this idea in them, you start to instill it in yourself, you start to believe it, but your body is simply showing you where, in your life, something is happening, where you have unprocessed feelings, where you have unresolved emotional states. The only way is to start moving in that direction, to start dealing with it, right? That makes sense? If what I'm saying resonates with you, put a plus in the chat. And I see this all the time when a parent says to a child, oh, you have... Let's be honest, remember what your parents used to say to you. Who was told that you have weak eyes, that you wear glasses, you have a weak spine, a weak stomach, weak skin, a weak immune system, that you're frail, you can't do anything, and so on. It's all suggestion. We start to believe it. You have to, guys, you have to instill in your children the idea that they have strong health, that they recover easily. Today you might have a runny nose, a cough, a fever of 40, but tomorrow you'll be running outside playing football. You have a strong immune system, a strong spine, flexible joints, you're smart, I love you, and I accept you just the way you are. Your mom will always support you. This is very important. This is an important foundation that we need to build. But you have to believe in it. Because if you don't believe that your child can get better, unfortunately, it will be hard to help them. Because that's the mindset you've instilled in them, unconsciously, not on purpose. No one on this planet, no one, wants children to be sick. But that's logical. It's because of ignorance. Because of ignorance, right? And the second point, which is very important, is what I told you today. We must not forget about our own lives. That is, if a mother sacrifices her life for her children, her family, her marriage, that's the end. That's the end. No, there is a category of mothers for whom even 5 children is not enough. I want 7. I want to cook borscht, sew frills, sit with the kids. Yes. If you enjoy it, if you're happy, that's great. But if you're uncomfortable, if you want more freedom, if you want more of one thing, another, a third, you'll have a conflict. You'll have problems. Let me tell you a story about my wife. I hope she doesn't throw tomatoes at me. When she was pregnant and started having some issues with her milk, I don't really remember. Something like her breast was hurting. Women, you understand this better than I do. And I understand that nothing happens for no reason. I said, okay, honey, let's talk. We made some tea, set the mood, all that. I said, tell me your fears. What are you worried about right now? What's bothering you? She said, I don't want to breastfeed the baby for a long time. 3 months is fine for me, but not more. 6 months, a year, and so on. I don't want to because my breasts will sag. She had her own reasons. It doesn't matter. I said, okay. And I said, so what's the problem? She said, well, on the other hand, doctors keep telling me that I have to breastfeed, otherwise something will be wrong with the baby, like their immunity won't be as strong. And I said, calm down. I, for example, was born at 7 months and I never even saw a breast. I was raised on formula feeding from the start. I'm living just fine, no complaints at all. Everything's good with me. Calm down. If you want to breastfeed for a few months, that's fine, calm down, and then we'll switch to formula feeding. We talked and she calmed down. All the pain went away, everything went smoothly, and things just worked out. That's why it's important to spot this symptom in time, any kind of discomfort. Great story. Tell me. Yes. That's why it's really important to find this support within the family. That's why I always say, guys, come to my courses as a family. When a husband and wife learn together, I'm just so happy because I know that's a family where nothing can stop them. Everything will be fine for them. If we're talking about children's psychosomatics, it's important to first go through the basics of psychosomatics to understand yourself and then move on to children's psychosomatics, because before you can address a child's emotions and feelings, you need to learn to manage your own. And the third point, which is very important, is that we must teach the child how to cope with emotions and feelings. That's our responsibility, guys. Whether we want to deal with this or not, but what's the problem? We often can't figure out our own emotions, but we agree. I'm afraid she's hurt, I'm angry, I don't understand what's happening to me. But how can we understand what the child is feeling? As parents, we often just observe, but what we really need to do is get down to their level and experience, feel what the child is not accepting, what they are going through right now. They need to talk it out. And often, the child doesn't need any solutions. We tend to think we have to do this or that, but sometimes you just need to listen. And when we listen, the emotion is experienced and it doesn't stay hidden in the shadows. So let's go over this again. Little children are in their mother's field, so you can only work with the mother. That's one. Second, when we talk about a child being ill, it's very important to consider how they came into this world. You need to sort that out. Next, the atmosphere in the family is important. If you argue, don't express yourselves. If there are lingering resentments and grievances, if you're already anxious and feeling unsafe, your child will pick up on your state and their body will reflect it. If you take this feedback and work with it, the situation will start to improve. If you don't, and just start treating the child without understanding the cause, it can simply turn into a chronic issue. That's why the family state is important and the mother's state is important too. But of course, it's not just about the mother. The mother provides safety in the family. The mother gives the child a sense of security. So it's important to learn how to work with your own feelings. And third, when the child already has their own emotions and feelings, you need to work directly with them. Great topic. Now I'm ready to answer your questions. So, Katya writes, her son is 9 years old, has dysgraphia, dyslexia, general difficulties not only with children, adenoids, a cyst in the left side of his nose, and a narrowing of a vessel in his neck. He sometimes faints when experiencing strong fear, stress, or headaches. He doesn't want to study, cries, and often gets sick during the school year, but is healthy in the summer. So look, in fact, here you're talking about a set of symptoms. Yes, so what would I recommend? First, I would still recommend seeing an osteopath. You need to find a good osteopath who works with craniosacral therapy and specifically work on the cervical spine. There may be some blockages here. So in this case, I would recommend working with the physical aspect since I used to be an osteopath myself. Believe me, 1, 2, or 3 sessions will be really great. What about psychosomatics? First, it's about your own state. What you're describing now indicates that you yourself are currently experiencing anxiety. You yourself are currently in an uncertain state, so it's important to restore a sense of safety for yourself. Secondly, it's important to consider how the child came into this world. How did you feel during your pregnancy? Did you have enough support or not? How did the birth go? What happened during the first year of life? It's very important to work through all the stresses that occurred during these periods. And your current state is similar to not having gone through separation. So Katya, let us know if this point resonates with you or not. It's a very interesting one. That your child is now showing a lot of these symptoms just so that you don't have any free time for yourself. Because from what you're describing, you constantly have to take care of them. Why might this be happening? Because you actually don't know what you want to do. You haven't found yourself in relationships. You haven't found yourself in work. There's a fear. What will I do without my child? Here's the kind of test you can use to check. Imagine that your child is healthy. They grow up and leave for adult life. And how do you feel? Normally, you should feel relaxed, but if you start to feel panic, fear, or anxiety, it means you're uncomfortable. It means separation hasn't been achieved. I've said a lot, Katya. Let me know what resonates with you. Write to me. Alright, Yuri is writing. His son has had valgus since birth. This depends on the mother. Okay, Yuri, let's break this down step by step. Again, I can't forget my knowledge of osteopathy, since I worked in an orthopedic clinic for a long time, and I worked directly with feet. And I worked with children, meaning the orthopedist would send them to me, I would work with them, and then I would send the kids back to him, and he would fit them with insoles. That's why I would 100% recommend involving an osteopath in addition to psychosomatics. Which areas should you pay attention to? To the falx cerebri, to the falx, yes, that's one. Second, definitely the condyles. The first and second cervical vertebrae are a must. And the pelvic floor is essential, because these structures essentially form our foot. As you can see, I haven't even talked about the foot here, but only osteopaths know this. For example, when children were brought to me, I would just work with the head. That is, I would work here, open things up, work on the vertebrae and nerves so that proper innervation would occur, and the children's feet would straighten out. This is very important. And you definitely need to work through the falx, because there can be tension here. And this tension is related both to childbirth and to the mother's stress. This is something I would definitely address from a physical perspective, 100%. Secondly, Yuri, what I want to tell you is that we also address psychosomatics. That's why it's essential for the mother to process the period of conception here. When she was pregnant, all the fears she had at that time need to be processed, all the worries, everything I mentioned. And thirdly, the current state that the mother is in right now. If a child has valgus, the first thing we might consider is that the child may be lacking contact. That is, either the mother is, on the contrary, too overbearing with the child, or she is cold, too distant from them. So why does the child lack warmth from their mother? The answer is obvious, because the mother had issues with her own mother. It's just that the family scenario is repeating itself. That's why the mother needs to work on her inner child and her relationship with her own mother. That's the classic case. Valentina asks, what could an ovarian cyst in a 7-year-old girl mean, and what does it say about the mother? An ovarian cyst points to a conflict of loss of something or someone being lost. There was someone and now they're gone. Someone died, or there was some kind of separation, someone left. So it's about a close, dear person who is no longer there, and as a result, the ovarian program is triggered. That's the first point. The second is the rejection of one's own feminine energy, right? So at age 7, we might consider that maybe the girl lost a pet, a cat, a dog, or maybe a beloved friend moved away, or perhaps something happened to a family member. In other words, through investigation, it might really be her own story. But you absolutely have to start with the mother. What happened with the mother? What separation, what loss, what grief did she not process? Where in her feminine energy is there a lot of pain, resentment, and these states, right? Valentina, write right away what resonated with you. All right. How do we understand the concept of an adult having an allergy to animals that was acquired in childhood? Let me thoroughly answer this important question, and then we will certainly continue with the children's insightful questions on this particular topic. Look closely. An allergy, specifically an allergy to various animals, just powerfully reminds you that you are currently stuck in a significant stress that you haven't fully processed. That is, at some point in your life, there was a very intense, very dramatic episode where animals were involved. So the simplest thing you can do is just write down on a piece of paper what was happening in your life 6 months or a year before this allergy appeared. Maybe that will work. What can you definitely do? You can come to my Basics of Psychosomatics course. I have a specific practice for working with allergies. What's the difference? In my course, I practically teach you how to enter a trance state, where you open your inner library and look at what your allergy is about, what specific event it is connected to. and you work through it. There, I give you a specific method, what you need to do, and the allergy will go away. This is a very common topic. Allergies to animals go away very quickly and easily. This can be corrected very well. So, I've given you two options. Let's move on. Olechka writes, everything resonates, the pregnancies and births were difficult. The child is already an adult but has constant headaches. It's the same thing. Yes, Olechka, this can also be very strongly connected. That's why I would recommend specifically for you to come to the basics course. We work through this in the children's psychosomatics section. I think the girls will put a link to my care department at the end. You'll be able to get a consultation. They'll tell you which specific practices you need. So first, you need to work through the prenatal period. Second, your current state right now. Where do I scold myself? Where do I blame myself? Where do I devalue myself? Maybe things I can handle intellectually. Because this can have an effect. And third, I would still recommend involving the body, an osteopath, for at least 1, 2, or 3 sessions. Specifically, you really need to work with the condyles. Yes, you need to work on the craniosacral area. With the dura mater as well. Yes. If you're in Moscow, I can give you contacts for a good clinic. All right. Let's do a practice exercise. Otherwise, we only have 15 minutes left. Do you want to do a practice? Yes, Katya just wrote that everything resonated with her. Yes, Katya, you definitely need to work through this. You need to rewrite this entire period for yourself. Believe me, you'll be able to breathe out, and your child will too. You need to process the trauma. It's hard to do this on your own. It's impossible to do it alone. Come to us, we'll help, and you'll sort everything out. I just want to do a little diagnostic with you, a brief assessment so that you can truly feel and understand your child and what they might be experiencing. This will help us both gain a clearer perspective. Let's do this. This will be great. This will be great. Just take a deep breath. Exhale. Just another deep breath. Exhale. Just truly feel your entire body. Become aware of your head, noticing any sensations. Gently shift your attention to your shoulders, observing their position. Move down to your hands, feeling the texture of the air. Finally, bring your awareness to your feet, sensing their connection to the ground beneath you. Say, am I here and now? I'm all okay. I'm completely safe. Yes, this is the kind of diagnostic we'll do together. Now take a deep breath. And as you exhale, imagine your child in front of you. As you gently exhale, clearly imagine your beloved child right in front of you. And first, notice what you feel. Is your body tensing up or relaxing? What emotion arises in you? Do you feel drawn to your child or pushed away? This is just a diagnostic. This is how you react to your child. Another deep breath. Then as you exhale, this is you as your child. This is you as your child. What is the first emotion you feel? Just notice where it lives in your body. What is this feeling? What does it look like? What is this feeling? Is it your mom's or your dad's? Who is transmitting it? Just notice it now. Very good. Another deep breath. And as you gently exhale, you are again looking directly at your beloved child. Imagine that you slowly walk up to them, tenderly take their hand in yours, and softly say, "I truly love you and completely accept you just exactly as you are. You are important. You are valuable. You are needed." You are needed, right? You don't need to take on your mom's emotions or conflicts. I can handle everything myself. You just need to be a child. You are safe. Your dad and I love you equally. Dad and I love you equally. You are important. You are important. You are needed. You are needed. You are healthy and have a strong immune system. You don't need to save us. You don't need to help us. You absolutely do not need to take on our current state of affairs. You can absolutely handle everything completely on your own, by yourself, with full capability. And take a deep breath. And as you slowly and completely exhale, you can gently and authentically say your own words again. Whatever comes from your deepest desires and genuine emotions, whatever truly resonates within your being, whatever comes from your innermost core, from your heart. Take 3 deep calming breaths in and then slowly out. Three deep breaths in slowly and then fully out. Well done. And now you can open your eyes and return to the here and now. And write in the comments what came to you. Write in the comments what you felt. Very interesting. A short practice, a quick diagnosis. Write your comments, I'll answer. Valentina is asking about an allergy to cats. If there's a genetic fur allergy in the family, can a child be prevented, and what should a mother do? Of course, as soon as the allergy appears, you need to start working on it. But the first thing you need to change is your attitude that you have some kind of genetic allergy. Allergy is a physical reaction in my relatives. My relatives had a physical reaction to cats because they had unprocessed feelings. Mom's emotion was sadness. Oksanoshka. Olga, what is this about in your life? Write it down, write it down. Guys, write it down. They copy my feelings. Of course, Senior, of course. What else? What else? Write it out, write it out. Let's do it this way. For those in the Telegram channel, I'll send a link to the care department now. Remember it, and the girls will tell you, based on your request, which practices you need to do and what will help you. If you're on Instagram, send me a direct message. Alright, the girls will send it to you, and they will definitely answer all your questions. If any question hasn't been answered, whether in the Telegram channel or on Instagram, the girls will answer it today. Alright? On Instagram, you can send me a direct message, and in the Telegram channel, the girls will reply to each of you. Yes. Oh, so what exactly does it depend on? Tear rejection, yes. Who is rejecting whom? Anastasia. So what are my feelings for him? Of course, Katya. Katya, everyone felt it. It's all very simple. Believe me, guys, when I learned about child psychosomatics, I wanted to shout about it from every corner. Guys, our children don't have to get sick. Our children can be healthy. But very few people want to believe that. Very few want to actually deal with it. After all, it's easier to wait for some kind of pill, some kind of patch, or something else, because dealing with yourself is always harder. But the result will be much better. If a child has anemia and all the women in the family, grandmothers, mothers, had anemia too, what is that connected to? But you just wrote it yourself. They have it because it's a certain strategy where I give my life to others. So how do you break that? First and foremost, you have to work on yourself, right? You break the cycle and everything changes for the child too. all family patterns. Let's put it this way. How do we break them? We start by working on ourselves. We step out of these patterns and then they no longer control us. That's the whole point, to evolve, to grow. Yes. Thank you, friends. Write your questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And put some fire emojis. How would you rate today's stream from 1 to 10? 10 is awesome. 1 means it's total trash and I won't do it like this again. Let's support Vadym. Be sure to share this stream with your family and loved ones who have children. Sometimes a person needs a way out, and when you start talking like this about how we can work on ourselves, how we can change something, a person starts to see a way out, starts to feel supported. Life really does start to change, doesn't it? 10 out of 10, thank you. That's like balm for my soul. After that, I want to share more with you. To share. Thank you to everyone who has been supportive. Thank you everyone who's supportive.